Okay, we're back. We're going to pick up the development of the child at 1 year. About 1 year old, the baby will be actively learning what's around her with fearlessness and with curiosity. She will be walking alone anytime now. She can grasp objects. She'll be really focused on you and will want to keep you in sight as she explores. The more a caregiver is available to the child, providing a relationship that she can count on, the more it will promote forming a secure attachment. And this will help for the child to begin functioning independently because she will feel confident and safe. As she tries to become independent, she needs to be allowed to feed herself and to help with dressing, such as putting her arms up when you go to put clothes on her. She learns by doing things over and over again and will like the same stories and games repeated many times. You'll notice that she's also a great imitator of adult behavior. She likes to perform. She'll say her first words about now. She can follow simple commands like "come to mommy" and understand simple questions like "where's the ball?" She's also starting to learn what no means. Make sure your home is safe because she can get around more now. It's a good idea at this stage for both child and parent to socialize with other babies and adults, such as in play groups or in coffee groups. Some intellectual development that's happening about this time. With regard to language, the child is understanding simple sentences, questions, requests. For example, "Give the book to me," "Find your ball," "Where is your shoe?" They are learning words and appropriate gestures by saying no and shaking their head, by saying bye-bye and waving. Also exclamations like "uh-oh." They will start to anticipate when a surprise is going to happen in a song or in a story. And they will take turns making sounds with you. Some thinking skills at this age. They will search for an object if they know that it's hidden, like lifting up a cup, looking underneath, or looking in a box for a toy, or unwrapping a toy. They will try out new actions for the same goal, modify old ones through trial and error. Associated actions and sounds will begin to make themselves relevant to them. For instance, the sound that a cat makes, or pointing up when they see a bird. They are aware of their own actions and some implications of those actions. They compare the same action done with both sides of their body. And they're developing strong memory skills. Some other intellectual skills, they respond to verbal requests. They use expressive vocabulary, bye-bye and hi and no and baby. And a single word may express a whole thought at this age. They enjoy looking at pictures and books, pointing to correct parts of the body when asked where they are. They know that smaller objects fit into larger objects. And they can search for a hidden object, whether they remember that it was hidden and where it was hidden. They are able to match shapes. They are able to repeat an action and get a reaction, such as knocking over blocks. With regard to comfort, play, and teach, with comfort, if you sing familiar songs as often as possible, they will attempt to imitate words and actions. in those songs. If you use encouraging words, such as good for you, they will develop feelings of self-confidence, independence, and a sense of power and satisfaction. With play, if you play a game in which you and the baby take turns by doing a simple action, for instance, clapping or blowing a kiss, they will learn to watch and to copy an action, and they will learn that they can make an adult follow their lead. If you encourage your baby to make music or dance, just make noise. They love making noise, they love hearing rhythm, and they love moving to music. And for teach, if you provide a variety of interesting objects and empty boxes or containers for the baby to explore, like cereal boxes, yogurt containers, sponges, things like that, then they will explore those objects and begin to have an understanding of the functions and the size and the shape of those objects. If you attach a toy by some elastic to the baby's high chair, they will begin to look for the object when they throw it off of the tray. They can learn that they can pull it back up by that string. Okay, some social development that takes place about this time. Typical social skills are they know when the parent approves and disapproves of their behavior. They can, as I said earlier, try to help when being dressed. They love to shake their head and say no, even when they mean yes. They imitate adult movements and play of other children. They repeat sounds and gestures if they get a reaction. And they distinguish themselves from others. Some emerging social skills are that they will dance to music. They are now familiar with routines of the day. They know what's coming next. They like to experiment with ways to get attention, and they enjoy being the center of attention. They respond to requests. They will generally give a toy back on request at this age. Comfort, play, and teach. If you, with regard to comfort, if you describe feelings, put your words to the baby's expressions. For example, when the baby is crying, saying that the baby is feeling sad. They will feel like you are responding to them, of course, and they will begin to recognize what are appropriate words to use in describing feelings. If you create a routine for daily events and talk about it before it happens, for example, it will be bath time soon, then that helps them to get ready. So they feel more safe and secure because they know what's going to happen next. And I will say from our experience raising our child is very flexible, very willing to go along with the thing that we ask them to do, but we had to tell him in advance what was coming. Otherwise he would be upset. About playing, if you look at family pictures or albums and talk about what the people are in the picture are doing, they will start to put names to faces. And they will even try to say some of the names. If you provide a safe place where the baby can crawl and explore, then they can communicate their interest in things around them, reaching, pointing, and moving towards those things. And teaching, if you talk to your baby about upcoming events, for example, mommy or daddy is returning to work or returning from work, they'll learn about what's happening around them and how it affects them. Okay, let's go on to 18 months. As your child approaches 18 months, he is feeling more independent. Also, if he's the center of the universe, this is not necessarily a bad thing. They need to learn that they are a separate person, and this is one way that that happens, is to provide the attention that they need at this age. So your child may try to learn about limits at this age, testing you in different situations, and as they become more of an individual, they'll be more curious and get into more things. Physically, a child of this age typically goes up and down stairs with the hand holding on to the handrail. They can throw a ball, they can sit down from standing and dance to music. They can also stack blocks, turn pages in a book, they can draw, and they can fill up empty containers, like at bath time. Socially, the child will enjoy playing near other children, but not necessarily with them. There isn't any sharing yet, really. He can feed himself, but he's still very messy. He can also drink out of a cup. He's beginning to pretend, play, and also initiate activities. He doesn't understand later, though, and so probably still wants everything right now. He can use about 10 to 20 words, but understand many, many more than that. And he'll just babble away at what seem like sentences in a foreign language. You can probably understand him about a quarter of the time. He uses gestures a lot now and likes to play "what is that?" with a great deal. Things to remember about this time: long before the child can talk, he is trying to tell you things by sending you cues about what he needs and he wants and he feels. Babies are learning language before they begin to speak. Even when he's only a few months old, your baby will be testing different types of cries, gurgles, facial expressions, and so on to see how you and other people around him respond. He'll learn to repeat different types of cries and movements and produce the results that he wants. Learning how effective he is at making things happen helps him to develop self-esteem and a willingness to try new things. When your baby makes sounds, repeat them and add to them. You can't spoil a baby by responding to her needs. Babies are born with a need for human contact. And in the process, you're learning more about her. She's learning more about you, in particular that she can count on you. Learning to read your baby is often fun and can seem easy. You smile, he smiles. He reaches out, you take his hand. But it can also be hard. For example, if he turns his head away when you speak, it feels like rejection. But he's just telling you he is overtired, overstimulated, or maybe he's just very sensitive to noise. Maybe he's telling you he needs your voice to be softer, or just leave him alone for a little while. It may take some trial and error to figure out what your baby is trying to tell you, so don't be discouraged. Your baby forms a secure attachment to you as you respond well to your child's needs and care for her. Babies need to know that they can rely on you for consistent care. The routines and rituals that you establish are part of the secure base you provide for your baby. This attachment becomes part of the brain's wiring and sets the basic model for all future close relationships. Quality time depends on quantity time. It is not enough just to have very good interactions for a very short time. There needs to be a long time where significant interaction can happen. All the occasions when you're able to spend a few minutes with your child won't necessarily be happy special times when you seem to be close in communicating with each other. You have to spend a lot of time getting used to each other and bonding for those special moments to occur. And when you really focus on your child, even during routine everyday things, those moments will happen more and more. Toys don't replace your personal attention. Giving a child toys and other safe things to play is an important part of providing a stimulating environment. But playing with your child is also essential to the child's well-being. Even when you seem to be pulled in many directions at once, it's important to make time for your baby. If you have a partner, try to work it out so that you can take turns with chores and with spending time with the baby. Housework isn't the highest priority. Build a network of friends, relatives, neighbors. We can all use a bit of help. Babies experience relationships through their senses. So lots of talking, cuddling, and eye contact are the way to tell your child that you love her. It's not humanly possible to always be there when she wants a hug. But do notice that she's asking for one, and do your best to give her that. You can't spoil a baby by meeting her needs. Babies are most ready to learn when they are calm and alert in a quiet environment. This is a good time to spend with them and to play. So, let's talk about 18 months to 2 years. In the toddler stage, you face the challenge of living with a child who is trying to be independent, but is still a bit scared of it all. As a result, there are sudden shifts in emotions and tantrums. No seems to be your child's favorite answer. He wants help, but he doesn't want it. He can be clinging and afraid that you'll abandon him, but the next minute wants nothing to do with you. You need lots of patience, and your child needs a lot of praise and encouragement as he tries to do things for himself. And toddlers learn by doing. There's no good or bad about it. They just want to try new things. So make sure your child is supervised. Routines help them in getting through the day, although you shouldn't follow them so closely that they cause battles. Be flexible about giving her easy, limited choices. In other words, would you like to wear the brown pants or the blue pants? And let her do as much as possible, like feeding herself. You may find that she orders people around, saying things like, "You're not supposed to do that." It's all part of becoming her own person. Some intellectual development that happens from 18 to 24 months. This means the ability to think creatively, abstractly, to pay attention, solve problems, use their judgment, things like that. With regard to language skills, two-word sentences are mostly what they're using at this point. More juice, want cookie. They can ask for help using words or actions. They might talk and talk and talk to a stuffed animal or even to themselves. They can name some pictures in an album, people. They can imitate new words and phrases like go bye-bye and daddy's car. With regard to thinking skills, they understand how familiar objects are used. A spoon is for eating, a cup is for drinking, a ball is for throwing. They understand the passing of time and the meaning of not now or when we go home. They recognize names of familiar people. They are busy mastering existing skills which lead to emerging new skills. They show an increased memory for details and routines. For instance, saying hot when reaching for hot liquid like tea or coffee, or holding a seatbelt in a car seat to show that it needs to be buckled in, and also remembering where objects go. Some emerging intellectual skills with language. They can sing simple songs with correct words and actions. They are now more articulate. They can use many more words and be understood by people outside of the family. They are starting to use plural nouns. They are using past tense. And they can imitate spontaneously or request new words. Thinking skills, they explore one-to-one correspondence, associations. They have a sense of more than one. They have an intense curiosity to investigate any new person or object or sound. They understand two-part requests. For instance, go to the shelf and bring over the blocks. About comfort, play, and teach. With regard to comfort, if you follow your child's lead in play, allowing them to be the director of activities, they begin to develop a sense of control about what they do and feel that you value their efforts. If you read books to your child that reflect their reality, starting to go to childcare, going to the doctor, playing with another child, then they begin to recognize common events and situations in printed material. With regard to play, if you count on your fingers, toes, if you count eyes and ears, mouth and nose during bath time or playtime, they develop a strong sense of their physical self. If you provide different size containers for water and for sand play, they understand now the relationship between objects and sizes of objects and how much something can hold. And teaching, if you point out familiar sounds when walking or playing outside, for instance, car horn or a dog barking or a fire truck siren, they begin to distinguish different sounds and learn the names for them. If you offer experiences that allow them to use their skills but challenge them just a little bit. For instance, if they can stack 3 blocks, then challenge them to add a 4th block on top. They will begin to feel more confident in trying things and in overcoming the challenges. And then social development, 18 to 24 months. Social development means being able to make friends, get along with others, work as a part of the team, be a good leader, and these skills all build self-confidence in the child. So typical kinds of social skills at this age are that they enjoy playing alone for a few minutes, like building blocks, drawing, looking at books. They show ownership or possession of objects, and they actually can't share very well right now. They say no, and they like to do things without help, and they like to help with simple chores around the home. Some emerging social skills: they distinguish themselves as separate people. They think in terms of differences between people. They begin to use the toilet, of course. They put on simple clothing without help now. With regard to comfort, play, and teach, if we use everyday routines like going for a walk or mealtime as a time to talk about family and friends, then they will learn the words to use when talking about feelings and about family. If we follow our child's lead, rather than direct the play, we suggest, but we let them decide, then they feel supported and that their opinion matters. With regard to play, if we look at photos of family events with a child, so that they can identify themselves in pictures, then they will begin to associate certain emotions with behaviors and events. If we set up a water play activity with a friend, or we give them dolls or sponges or towels, they can begin to see what makes other children happy or sad or angry or those sorts of things. And then teach. If we prepare the child ahead of time for some new social event, at the playground we will sing songs and listen to stories. Then they can know that they can rely on you to help them deal with emotions and things that they're experiencing. If you let your child help with chores around the home, wiping up spills, pulling clothes, putting clothes in a drawer, taking clothes out of a drawer, they begin to develop some strategies in how to do things, skills just around the house. All right, and then 2 years. By age 2, they can play by themselves on a concentrated task. More and more, they will pretend when they're playing. They love to run and jump and climb and go up and down stairs, throw a ball. This kind of activity helps them gain control over their body and handles the frustration that they can experience sometimes. Activities like music and reading, for instance, can be very soothing. Your child will likely be happy to play near other children at this age, but not necessarily with them. So near them, but not necessarily with them. Encourage the child to share, but don't force the sharing if he or she is not ready. The child is using about 50 different words now and can name almost everyday objects. He can use 2-word sentences like more milk, pretty bird. An adult should be able to understand the child's talking about half the time now. 2.5 to 3 years, they will have real sense of their own personality. They have more self-esteem and confidence now. They're not afraid of abandonment, and they're generally optimistic and cheerful. That won't keep them from expressing their opinions, which is also a healthy part of growing up. They'll be more sociable now and capable of some play with other children, although they're still not very good at sharing at this age. They appreciate help in learning to take turns, asking for things that they want, knowing the right words to use and the right timing. They like building things, finger painting, using clay. They're getting better and better at pretend play too. There will be fewer tantrums these days because she can express herself and her feelings with her words. And that's, by the way, an important phrase that you can encourage the child with, is use your words. This is something that my wife did with our child, and it was very, very effective in trying to limit the outbursts and the tantrums. The child has much more understanding of what no means. The toddler will likely have some fears, whether they make sense to you or not. Just try to be understanding of them. Just say, it won't hurt you, but I know that you're scared. Just to recognize that fear in them. Changes in routine may upset the child. She'll probably be attached to some favorite toy or a blanket. Physically, the child can control their movements much better. They can balance on a straight line. They can alternate feet when going upstairs, walk backwards, walk on tiptoes, climb over furniture, and use a spoon and fork. They can take lids off of jars and complete a simple puzzle. They can probably also undress themselves, but often need help still with dressing. She can also take on small responsibilities, like picking up toys, and probably the best strategy there is to make it sound like fun. Around now, your child will be learning to use, well, you should have already used the toilet. Around age 3, the child can use 3 to 6 word sentences, and even strangers can understand them. She asks a lot of questions and can tell you about things that she's done. She also understands now and later, but not necessarily yesterday, and understands the number 2 and maybe the number 3, such as when you say, give me just 2. It's important that you, and separately your partner, have a special time with your child each day. Maybe it's when you read a story, or take part in pretend play, or help with bath time. This is the time to really focus on your child and be a warm, sympathetic listener. All children vary at the rate of development for each area, such as movement, talking, getting along with others. So this information is just meant as a general guide. It's important too not to expect more of your child than she's capable of, or it might just be frustrating for both of you. All right, intellectual development up to 3 years. With regard to language skills, they ask questions frequently: who, what, where, why. They participate in storytelling, and they will recite books, stories, poems back to you. They can repeat 5-word sentences. They talk with adults and peers and can be understood. And they talk to themselves about recent events, make-believe characters, like that. With regard to thinking skills, they develop size comparisons using language like bigger, smaller, really little. They try to dramatize thoughts and ideas. For instance, pretending to be a dinosaur. They can count 3 objects. They can match similar pictures and objects. They can also tell the difference between those objects. And they enjoy creative movement, and especially to music. Some emerging skills with language. is using and understanding direction and position words like around, backward, forward, inside, underneath. Comments, they comment on details of pictures in books. They show an understanding of stories, and they will act them out with maybe a puppet or a doll. They ask really much more complicated questions like, what is this? How did you do that? And they respond to requests like, go find your coat, or go get a paper towel. Some thinking skills. They are able to separate small objects from larger ones. They are able to make a plan before taking an action. They notice changes in nature, for instance in seasons, and when a seed is planted and then grows. They use words associated with an understanding of time, like sleep time, awake time, and they are part now of sort of a growing community of not only family but also friends. With regard to comfort, play, and teach, in comfort, if you take time to talk to your toddler and ask about things that interest her, they will share ideas and experiences because they know that you're interested. If you sing number songs and rhymes, then they will learn number concepts and counting in a playful way, which is the best way. If you use something like laundry as an example, a routine as an opportunity to describe things about the family, what each family member wears as an example, then they're able to kind of categorize things by family member, know what is theirs, what is someone else's, and they also just take comfort in routines. The children just really appreciate routines. With regard to play, they will, if we ask an open-ended question like, what did you see on your walk? They can use their descriptive words and get practice with their language skills. If we introduce the concept of first, second, and third in simple games, who is first, who comes second, they begin to recognize numbers in a different way. If we provide puzzles with 3 to 6 pieces, then they will gain more and more confidence in their ability to put things together. And then teach. If we introduce an abstract and a basic concept like time, color, size, they begin to develop an understanding of abstract concepts and talk about them. If we introduce the concept of time when following routines, like breakfast time and bedtime, they begin to understand how events follow in a sequence. If we create a sorting game so that they can sort objects by color or by shape or by size, they begin to understand how to group things together and how to tell differences and similarities between them. And then finally, social development, 31 to 36 months, up to 3 years. Social development is, as I've said before, making friends, getting along with others, working as a team, those sorts of things. Typical social skills at this age are that they can express affection openly. They can use social conventions like please, thank you, and greetings. They can play alongside others comfortably. They are more able to be cooperative in play and to take turns. And they can play make-believe games. Some emerging social skills, they can imitate adult behavior, for example, shopping in a make-believe grocery store, creating an imaginary friend to talk to. They're comfortable around new adults. They can help other children do things. And they are developing skills like turn-taking, sharing, using words to express problems or conflict. Comfort. If you will introduce the toddler to familiar neighbors and community workers, they will begin to recognize who is safe for them. If you demonstrate affection with hugs and with loving words, they will learn how to show affection properly. If you acknowledge positive behavior, for example, the way you shared was so polite, they will know then what is appropriate behavior, and they will be motivated to repeat it. With play, if we provide many kind of dramatic play props like food and containers and play money and a basket, then they will be able to kind of recreate situations in their pretend play. If we invite some child's friends for a meal or some kind of activity, then they will be able to practice their social skills. If we encourage the child to wash plastic dolls and give them a small basin of water, to give them a bath, then we give them practice in caregiving and nurturing skills with others. And then finally teach, if we plan shopping trips with the toddler, including making lists of things that need to be bought, then we are modeling those kinds of actions that they can use in pretend play and then ultimately, in real life. They're also learning language skills and how to use their imagination. If we play simple turn-taking games like I Spy with my little eye, then they practice waiting their turn, and also they develop good observation skills. So just some general things to remember about the toddler years. It's time to start setting some limits beyond safety, when your child is a toddler. You and your child's primary caregiver should agree on what those limits are so that you can be consistent. They should make sense and really matter. A few rules like no hurting others, be gentle, should be set with the child. If you have too many limits, they can become too trivial and everyone will get frustrated. Let your child know what the expectations and limits are and stick to them. Be firm and consistent. And it's a good idea to remind your child of the expectations and limits before beginning a new activity or going out someplace. Children respond much better to limits when they feel loved and noticed as a part of a warm, caring relationship. Trying to give directions in a positive way, such as please close the door quietly instead of don't slam the door. Notice and praise of good behavior is very wonderful for them. This can build their self-esteem, also reduce their desire to battle with you. It takes time for children to learn to make friends and to get along with others. These social skills will improve as the child learns to talk better and to control their movements better. So playing with another child and having two-way communication is great to prepare them for later in life. You can even play-act ways of dealing with new situations that a child may be facing. It's a good idea to start leaving your child with a new caregiver for just a short time, for just a couple of weeks, before you need full-time care. Stay with the child and the caregiver for a little while each day, for the first few days to help the child adjust, and this lets you know more about the daycare situation and lets them know that this is a safe place. At this age, it would be a good idea to prepare for outings by bringing the child's favorite toy and snack along with you. Talk about where you're going, talk about what you'll be doing, and how they are expected to behave. Stay with mommy, as an example. So your child has an idea of what to expect. Also be careful about the time of day that you go. Children need their snacks and they need their naps. So when possible, leave the child at home or with a sitter if you think that the outing is going to be more than they can handle. Routines are important for children, as I've said. A child learns to expect what is going to happen next, and knowing this gives them a feeling of control. Bedtime routines especially can make life simpler and more pleasant for everybody. There should be a bedtime hour, and the routine should include calming things like having a bath or reading a book. Help them to learn the routine, to again know what to expect. Children do the most amazing things and faster than you can imagine. They can learn, but they do need repetition. And all children do break the rules at times. It's just natural. But how you respond to that will determine the situation in many ways. You need to think about what's appropriate for the situation and how your child is feeling. Misbehavior is often a result of your child being upset. She doesn't know how to communicate what's bothering her, so it comes out in other ways. She isn't acting that way just to make you mad. She's trying to figure it out, trying to figure out what to do. So you need to ask yourself some questions. Is she bored with what's going on? What is she trying to say? Is this an unfamiliar situation to her? Why is she acting out like this? Understanding the child's feelings may help you control your emotions and guide her a little bit better. Your child needs to be able to rely on you and know that you are there when needed. And a secure child is going to be more willing to explore, is going to be more secure in themselves, more confident. So this is what we are looking for. If you notice that the child is having some difficulty, stop what you're doing and go and give some help to the child. If the child is finding it hard to be part of some group, one idea is to give them a toy related to the group's play and just help him to join in with what the group is doing. So all of these things can help at this age of roughly up to 3 years. Okay, so we're going to take another break now.